Well, hello everyone and good evening. My name is Brian Akers. It's the first time coming across my page. I am a teacher, husband, dad of 4 kids. Um, and a couple years ago, we discovered that 2 of our kids are on the spectrum. And so we started slowly looking into different types of therapies. I want to bring some of these resources that we have found to you. So hopefully you get some value from this interview. And thrilled to have a special guest tonight. Her name is Bekah Doak. She is an autism therapist who specializes in what's called the Play Project and play therapy. And she is a parenting coach. And we're looking forward to sharing some awesome resources with you. And so, Bekah, if you can just share a little bit about yourself and how you got started working with children on the spectrum, we can kind of get off and
Yeah.
running.
Hi, Brian. Thank you. Like you said, my name is Bekah Doak, and I have been working with children and families with disabilities since my undergrad days, which was back in the late 90s. So it has been a really, really long time. And I just started out working because a girl in one of my psychology classes was doing it as a part-time job, and she kept talking about all these kids that she had fallen in love with and really enjoyed working with. And I was like, well, I need a job. That sounds pretty cool. And so she introduced me to doing in-home ABA. So that
Wow,
was
that's
actually
awesome.
my first job working with kids on the spectrum. And so I did that for actually quite a while, my junior and senior years of undergrad, and for a while during that summer. And I've just kind of been in that world for a really long time. Fast forward to the early 2000s, and my first daughter is born. And as she grows up a little bit, and we discover that she's autistic. So she was kind of born into a good family, I guess, for
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
And I was working in early intervention at the time for a local county board of developmental disabilities.
Okay.
And through that, through my job, I actually had this wonderful opportunity to get trained in something called the Play Project, which that play in that context stands for play and language for autistic youngsters. So while it is play based, it's a little bit different than just the generic term of play therapy.
Okay. What was that acronym again?
Play and language for autistic youngsters.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. So we do a lot of playing, but the name itself means something different than just play therapy.
Okay. Cool.
So I was able to use those skills with my own daughter too, which was just a great blessing back then. And she's now 20 and getting ready to go to college.
Wow. So, how old was she when you first started suspecting that she was on the spectrum?
She was a little bit older. She was probably around 7 or so.
Okay.
So she had been in school for a year or two. And so some of those higher level skills, like the pressure of being in school and everything, some of those things were starting to become more apparent.
Okay. What were some of the signs that you first noticed?
So her name is Morgan. She's a very smart little girl, and she had a lot of scripting. But unless you knew kind of like the TV shows that she watched or the books that she read, she was clever enough to be able to pull in her scripts into conversation that if you didn't know exactly where they were coming from, they kind of sounded like they went with the conversation. But if you were familiar with what she had read and watched and everything, you're like, I think that sounds like Dora. So they were more subtle, but as she got older, more of the social implications came into play, and then some more sensory things as she became older.
Okay, that's very similar to my son's story. We started to suspect he was on the spectrum when he was maybe 3 or 4. We noticed a lot of the scripting, things that he was saying was from TV shows.
Yep.
Wreck-It Ralph was a big one, and they kind of fit. Like, the lines fit. We're like, oh, that's funny. And
Right,
then
right.
you
Isn't she
slowly
clever?
start, yeah. Then you start to realize, like, wait, it's all movie lines.
Yeah.
But yes, that's really cool. Um, so with the play project, what drew you to that, and what do you like best about this type of therapy? And we'll talk a little about the other types of therapy too, because I know there's a lot of other parents out there who are looking at different types of therapy and some of the challenges they're having with that. But
Yes. So there's a lot that I love about Play Project, and this is not to disparage any other type of therapy that's out there because there's definitely pros and cons to everything. But I love that it is parent implemented. So myself as a Play Project consultant, I come in and I teach the parents how to provide the intervention. So it makes it a lot easier to get the intensity that we need for, um, what they recommend for autism intervention, right? Especially when you're talking about early intervention, you
yeah,
want it to be intense. So getting in the hours of intervention. So if you're doing it throughout your day, and it's not even really just sitting on the floor and playing, you're embedding it into your daily routines, the actual techniques, it's easier to get that intensity. And it also makes it a lot more cost effective if you're not having to pay a provider to do the 20, 30, 40 hours a week.
yeah, and just think of how much more effective that is to you as a parent, because you know the reasoning behind why they're doing everything,
Right.
why they're implementing the strategies, and saves you a little bit of going back and forth with a therapist or a
Right.
technician that you're working with.
Right. It's also very child centered. So we're really honoring everything about your child. We're honoring all of those abiding loves that they have, all of their stems and their sensory needs. We're using all of that information to go into their world and meet them where they're at and use that as a basis to really form this very strong, joyful relationship and connection with them, and that is the where we start our developmental intervention.
That's
So we
awesome.
use that as the basis.
Okay. And I see in some of our, parent support groups for parents of children with autism, um, they're wanting to do something like ABA therapy or even just speech and occupational therapy, but they have to go through the long process of getting a diagnosis, which we just went through that with our youngest, and it took, I think, between 6 and 8 months. It was pretty
It's
much
crazy.
3 appointments every 6 to 8 weeks, and that can be very disheartening for a lot of parents
Yeah.
where they're having the sleep struggles, they're having behavior issues they don't know how to deal with, and they're like, well, another 6 to 8 months of this before I even start to get answers. um, and so something like this, you can actually tailor it, and you actually do some things that are online as well, right?
Yes. So another really good thing about the play project is because it's developmentally based, it's really it's not inappropriate for anyone. It's appropriate for any child. So you don't have to have a diagnosis to get started with it. And all of us play project consultants have been trained to deliver this education to parents in a virtual setting. So I'm in Ohio right now, and I do have some local families that I see in person, but more of the people that I serve are like in Tennessee and Texas and other places. And I meet with them just like this. And we have very specific strategies that we can use to relay the information to parents in this type of setting.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know when we initially first started getting our youngest into speech therapy, and this was right before COVID, so she had only maybe 2 or 3 sessions with her actual speech therapist, and she was doing a fantastic job. But then everything got shut down, and so we're doing most of it over Zoom, and it
Not
ended
the
up,
same.
no, it wasn't. It ended up turning into a lot of, the speech therapist was teaching us what to do.
Right.
We were going out and trying to implement, which it was a lot of fun, but that was a lot to learn too. And I can't imagine the struggle it was for our speech therapist trying to take everything that she had been trained to do, teach us how to
Right.
do it, and then try to watch
Right.
us implement it. So, oh my goodness.
But that's how Play Project was designed from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So it works a little bit differently.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And we do, we work on engagement, back and forth interaction, sensory needs, communication skills, play skills, and we build up the ladder like that.
That's fantastic. You said it originally, because I'm over in Michigan. You said it originally started in Ann Arbor.
Yes. So Dr. Rick Solomon is our founder of everything. And he was originally a developmental pediatrician, I believe, in Pittsburgh. And then he moved to Michigan. And Play Project home office is in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Okay.
And from there, they have trained hundreds and hundreds of consultants all over the US, mainly through the early intervention system, which is in every state. It's called something different in every state. But then we've also branched out into other countries as well.
Oh wow. And how long ago did it start?
It was in like the mid 2000s. So I got certified in 2012.
Okay.
And they had been around for maybe 5-ish years prior to that.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
And so we with our youngest, we went through the diagnosis process. We were fortunate to get her into a therapy center with a therapist that we work really really well with. We agree
Good.
with their philosophy, and seeing some of the other posts and some of the other parents that are going through ABA therapy. It's not always the case. There are some centers that probably the parents don't necessarily always agree with everything that goes on. There's a lot of negativity around ABA.
Yeah.
Like I said, fortunately, that hasn't been the experience for us. Our youngest loves going there for therapy. We drop her off and she can't wait to book it to the door.
Good.
But how is the Play Project different from like before we hopped on? I was under the understanding that ours was play-based ABA therapy, and you said that's very different from the Play Project. You want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So ABA can be very play-based, meaning that there will be some moments where you're following the child's lead. It's natural environment training is probably the technical term of what they're referring to. And where it looks like they're on the floor and they're using toys and that type of thing to pair with the child and motivate the child. But they're working with behavioral strategies and behavioral terms to kind of elicit the specific responses that they're looking for.
Okay.
And they have gone in with kind of, more than likely, of course, I don't know what your therapist is looking at, but probably more than likely kind of predetermined outcomes that they're trying to get to.
Okay.
And it's behaviorally based. Play Project is developmentally based, which means, yes, there is kind of a shining star that we're after, and this is what we're striving for, but we really do follow the child's lead, and it's the child's cues that tells us where our work is. Okay. So they are fluctuating up and down this developmental ladder, and where they are at any moment in time guides what methods and techniques we're going to use in that moment, so that we are supporting them appropriately, not too easy and not too challenging.
Okay.
But when we're scaffolding them appropriately, then that is how we can best help them solidify and move up the developmental levels. And we're not going in with a predetermined agenda.
Okay. Yeah. So now, when we had our first couple meetings, there was goals that were laid out and very specific stuff, similar to what we have to do as teachers.
Right.
So okay.
Yeah. So we have goals, obviously, but it's not for each session. We're not going in with anything super specific in mind.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you have some success stories or examples of how the Play Project has helped children on the spectrum that you just want to share, like a short glimpse for someone that's looking like they're on the waiting list and they're looking for something like this that they can implement at home and start doing something in the meantime?
Yeah, sure. So I have been working with one little guy. We'll call him Jason. That is not his real name. And I've been working with him for just over a year. And he just turned 4 in December. So he was just under 3 when he came into my life, or I came into his, and he was really nonverbal. He had a few sounds that he would make, but they didn't seem to be attached to anything super intentional at the time. He didn't really play with any toys. We couldn't get him to engage with us for probably any more than like 15, 20 seconds at a time.
Oh,
So he liked a lot of sensory play. So he liked jumping and running and things like that. So fast forward a year, which is really only me going out to see the family 11 or 12 times.
oh
So
wow.
once a month, right?
Okay.
There are things we do in between visits, which we don't need to get into today, but that's part of the program. And he is using 3 and 4 word sentences. He goes to preschool, and he can follow the routine at preschool. He drags his older sister down to the basement to play with him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. I met another child today. This was out of the blue. He's 12. So he is in 7th grade. He doesn't have an IEP because he is doing so well. Now he needs some extra support, but academically he's doing amazing. He plays football and basketball on his
Wow.
school teams, and he was in play project during early intervention.
Oh, wow.
And he has an autism diagnosis.
Wow. So he did the play project years ago when he was younger.
Years ago, yeah, with one of my coworkers.
Wow, that's
I
fantastic.
know, and I happened to meet him and his mother today.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And then also for those that are watching, if you have questions or comments or just want to pipe in, we'll give you a shout out. You can also leave a comment. We are using StreamYard, and there's should be like a little button to click if you want to actually show your name. Otherwise, you can just drop your name in the comment too. But any questions you can drop in there, and
Yeah,
Becca and I
we'll
will,
check back.
yeah, take a shot at it. What advice would you give to parents who may suspect their child may be on the spectrum, but they haven't, what steps would they take first to start moving in the right direction?
Right. So I think there's always this kind of push and pull, like, should we get our child evaluated? Should we wait? Should we maybe wait till they go to preschool and see then? And my advice, I mean, we just heard from you how long it took you to get your child evaluated. My advice is get on that wait list now. Because it can take you, depending on where you live, 6 months. I talked to somebody in California, and their wait list is over 12 months at this
Wow.
point just to get an evaluation. So the worst thing that could happen is that you get on that wait list, and 12 months from now you decide that you don't need it for
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
reason, and then you cancel your appointment.
yeah,
But you don't want to wait a year and then decide you want the evaluation and have to wait another year to get it.
yeah, for
It
sure.
can be very scary, but more resources open up to you when you have that diagnosis. And that's the benefit of getting it.
Yeah,
From a parent point of view, more resources open up to you. The other thing that I think parents need to know, at least in the US, is that a medical diagnosis of autism is not the same thing as an educational diagnosis of autism for, an educational disability classification for an IEP. They're two separate things.
oh, okay,
So in most states. So just because you have one doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get the other.
okay. I know we got the medical diagnosis. Are they done at the same centers? Okay.
No. So the school has to determine the educational disability category.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I know when we went through the process with my oldest, and I worked in the school system at the time, and it was, and I know that the like our counselors and stuff, were very hesitant to even bring that up with us, even though like
Right.
deep down we knew.
Yeah.
And we even kind of found that with when we got our daughter started in speech therapy, they were a little hesitant. They said that we saw signs, but
Right.
we almost had to pry it out of them. It's like you can say it.
You
We
can tell
know.
us, right?
We've been through this before. It's not going to shock us.
Yeah.
That we need to take that step. It's just nice to have some confirmation there. But yeah, for parents, don't wait for an educator or a teacher or someone else to say move forward. Chances are you probably know deep down what's going
Right.
on. So
Right.
trust your gut.
Yep.
If parents wanted to find someone local to work with, I know you have plenty of resources online, but if they wanted to find someone local to work with, possibly in the meantime, what would you suggest?
Yeah, if they're interested in Play Project specifically, they can always go to playproject.org.
Okay.
And that is the Play Project website. And there is a search feature on there where they can look for credentialed consultants and find someone either near you or other people who do it virtually as well.
Okay.
So that is a definite option. If your child's under the age of 3, regardless of what other resources or therapies you're involved in, I highly recommend getting involved in your local early intervention program. That is typically free or very low cost for families.
Is just a Google search the best way to find some of those, or are there some other hidden resources where parents can
For
go?
early intervention?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just put in your state and then early intervention because it's called something different in every state.
Oh, okay.
So like in Ohio, it's Help Me Grow. Some
Okay.
states it's called First Steps, Bright Beginnings. Like it has a lot of different names, but it's Part C of Special Education IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities with Education Act. So it's a federal, it's a federal rule. So every state has it.
Okay. Cool. Very good to know.
Yeah, birth through 3.
For parents that want to continue to support their child's progress outside of therapy sessions, what recommendations would you have?
Fun with people-oriented games, I think are amazing. And you can use them in all sorts of ways. You can use them to help your child meet their sensory needs. So like jumping on a couch, squishing with pillows, chase, tickle games. So those are all types of games that don't involve toys or screens that can sometimes capture our kids' attention a little bit too much. In
Oh,
some
yeah.
instances where they want to tune us out.
Yeah.
But we know that learning takes place in the context of a relationship with another person. Language learning, social emotional learning, all learning. So we want to make ourselves be the best toy in the room. So whatever your child's sensory preferences are, if it's singing a game, if it's that deep pressure, those big hugs and squeezes, maybe squishing with a pillow is your best bets. And then pairing with those types of games, my favorite technique, which I very technically call prime the pump, then wait. So you give the little tickle, and then when you have them hooked, you wait. And then you let them indicate that they want more, because then that adds in the communication piece. So then they're communicating with you, even if it's just looking at you, smiling, reaching towards you. If they don't have words yet, that's okay, because they're still communicating with you. And then you say, oh, you want more tickles? Okay, here we go. And you do it again.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. That was one of the breakthroughs with our youngest was games like that. She loved Ring Around the Rosie.
Yes.
She loves chasing, and so we would get up next to her
Yes.
and be like, ready, set,
Yes.
and let her say go, and then we
Yep.
take off. And that was really what sparked her initial communication, because she was about 18 months behind on the speech, as far as speech and language development. And that's what really got her going. It's got the eye contact, going back and forth, and the engagement, which
Which
are
is
all
huge.
yes. Yeah. So all those ideas that you threw out there were fantastic. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. But fun with people.
Fun, yes. So what are some other common misconceptions about either autism or just autism therapy in general that you like to kind of clarify for people that are looking at these types of strategies?
I think it's, I don't want to say funny, but it's still kind of funny to me that there are those misconceptions out there that, if you're diagnosed with autism or if you're autistic, that means that you are never going to speak, because it's true for some people, but it's not true for a lot of people. It's not true that people with autism automatically have a lower IQ. Like, that is not something that goes into an autism diagnosis. Um, that people with autism don't want to be around other people, that they don't want friends and relationships. It's just not true. That they don't feel that empathy, or don't want to relate to other people, is a myth from the past that has somehow survived in certain circles, and it's just simply not true. Your child, I always tell my parents, because one of the things as parents that we wait for so much is to like hear our children say, I love you.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes it's a little bit later coming, but your child loves you and your child knows that you love them, even as hard as it can be sometimes. So I just want people to know that.
Yeah, they just may not have the language there to express it,
Yeah.
but they're gonna show it in other ways, whether it's cuddles or snuggling up or
Yes.
and that for Brooklyn, our 4-year-old, I think the first time she finally said, love you was probably about 6 months ago. It took a while, but I mean, she was very cuddly at other times, and
right.
We just had to remember that. And so when she finally had the language there to express it, meant just as much as
I know. I mean, it's an amazing moment, but your child loves you.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share about the play project or working with children on the spectrum?
I don't think so. I just, it has been a part of my life for a really long time, and I've never gotten tired of it. I love it, and I'm just so glad that it's available for families who are kind of in that limbo and just on these long wait lists.
Yeah, and so if parents want to work with you directly, I'll put up your link here. And you have a Facebook page that they can visit as well, and then we have this LB consult that people can. So if someone wanted to do the play project with you, what would those steps look like? Because they wouldn't need a diagnosis.
Nope.
They wouldn't need a wait list.
Nope.
And so if they're struggling with their child who won't go to sleep, they can't work on they don't know how to communicate with them. This would
having all those sensory issues going on. Yeah. So this Linktree link actually takes you to everything. It takes you my play project services are falling under, I have my own unique name for it. It's called Playful Parents, because I combine the individual one-on-one of play project with also a group program. What I've found through my many, many years of doing this is that it's also kind of lonely to be an autism parent. So I've also factored in like twice a month group coaching calls and a private Facebook group just for my play project parents.
Oh, to build that community.
Yes.
Fantastic.
To build that community. And so I just stuck a different name on it because it's not just Play Project, it's Play Project Plus. So the link for Playful Parents is under this link tree, as well as my more general Facebook group as well.
Okay.
I also have other self-paced online programs just for general like tantrum stuff, and also a mini sensory course as well.
Oh, awesome. So if they had just one particular issue they wanted to check out and just see, kind of test drive what the play project is all about and how it may work for them, one of those may be an option as well.
Yep. And my email's through that link as well.
Okay. Fantastic. Let's see. I haven't seen any comments come in, but both Becca and I will check back. If you have questions as you watch the replay of the video, drop hashtag replay down below. We'll come back and revisit and answer any questions. So Becca, thank you so much. I just want to acknowledge you for coming on, sharing your information, your passion for what you do for children that are on the spectrum, your dedication for over the years, starting going through this whole process. As a parent of kids that are on the spectrum, I know the impact that you're having on families, and the fact that you're being able to take that and offers these types of services to parents that are waiting and just kind of in limbo and not really know what to do next, giving them something that they can latch onto and start doing in the meantime, and plus empowering them also to kind of take some of that knowledge into their own hands is fantastic. So thank you so much for hopping on. I
Yeah, you're
appreciate your
welcome.
time.
Thank you.
And if you're watching, make sure you check out our services and connect with Becca. And
Yeah.
we will talk to you later.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.